reveals a fundamental weakness of Labour's appeal really over the last few years. It's constantly thinking about how it should position itself in order to defeat its opponents. It is not thinking about how to best position itself in order to define itself for the electorate and to be clear about what it's about. And I would argue that the fundamental problem that Labour have is they went into government without a clear narrative or story about what they're about. Voters and did not embrace. I mean, Labour only got 35% of the vote. I mean, ignore that parliamentary majority. It is very, very misleading. Labour came out of the 2024 election skating on very thin ice, and the ice has just simply melted.
Look, Professor, right? They did go in there with a very clear plan. The plan is Agenda 2030 or whatever, right? The plan is G40 cities. The plan is Sadiq Khan. Professor, why lie? They didn't want to define it because if they do reveal it, not define it, reveal it, people won't vote for them, right? And so therefore it's nudge, 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 right? They know exactly what their plan is. Their plan is Tony Blair. Their plan is WEF. Their plan was WHO. Their plan is, literally China. Their plan is surveillance everywhere. Their plan is flood England with immigration. Crime is being purposely put up. There's this whole war with Putin business going on, which is particularly shady with the United Nations. It's all geared towards they want England to be like China, that model with social media, right? And they want to scrap they're gonna scrap MPs and they're gonna have like voting, right? But they want the voting to be controlled by celebrities like Nigel Farage. So they're like the advisors, right? Advisor voting. We're going to tell you how you should vote, and we're going to have control of the media, and we can block everyone out, like, Jimmy Dore and Russell Brand and people we don't want, and that's what they were trying for, right? And people know that, and people aren't stupid. So in order to get it, they've got to nudge it bit by bit, right? Which is what they're doing with the war, nudging people over to this country, and the whole Putin thing. If you fall for this whole Putin-Ukraine war, you're stupid. Now, we have managed to block them on certain things, like, that court case came out with the transgender thing a certain way, but, they're always going to the European court because effectively at the end of the day, we don't have a country anymore that can come to any decisions at all. That they're still acting as if it's part of the European Union and part of the whole global community with China anyway, right? Our rights have been undermined in this country. So to say that they went in there without a plan, because they got a plan, Davros is the plan, and it's about trying to. People are winning. People are nudging against them, and they're trying to nudge back towards that direction. You got Big Brother Watch and all these other groups, and I think, where does Donald Trump stand in all that? Well, Donald Trump is, business as usual, as much as he can get away with. They're calling out Trump on health. They're calling Trump out on this or that. And then, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to the government. This is not healthy. This is not good for, we can't have business as usual. They like business as usual, but they can't. And it's all about putting the feelers out. I think what Professor means is that when Labour are trying to beat their opposition, it's a grappling. It's a grapple now, and all parties are locked in. Everyone's locked in. It's almost kind of like some kind of wrestling move where you've some sort of like, Mark Zuckerberg does judo, right? In judo is less punching and kicking and more kind of like these sort of grab moves where you got to get your opponent down and put their shoulders on the floor, right? everyone's got hold of each other, and then everyone's try push and pull and get into a position where they can get their opponent down, which is kind of like you said with Labour. But what is that? Well, it's a thing. It's well, you said that Labour try to beat their opponents. So, but who are their opponents? Well, people who are opposed to what they wanted to do. So, the professor is wrong because he said that Labour are trying to beat their opponents rather than give a defined thing. But no, the defined thing is what their opponents don't want them to do, right? You can't say that Labour haven't got a defined thing. They've immediately got a defined thing when they've got opponents, because their opponents are people who don't want them to do the defined thing, right? Or else, they won't have opponents, right? They'll all be getting on together. So it's Professor's lying, because he's trying to make out that when you've got opponents, the opponents want to stop you from doing something that you want to do, right? And what they want to do is something. It's defined. It's a defined thing. Is this Agenda 2030 or whatever, in G40 cities or whatever they are, right? That's what it is. China, Blair, right? And but why didn't they define that and make it clear? Because then no one would vote for them, right? It's all slipped under the. No one would vote for them if they say, okay, right, well, they've got those things, but you're not saying, oh no, they aren't Labour policies. They're just like these things that are going to happen whether you like it or not. Oh, right, now I see. They're going to happen whether we like it or not, right? So who's the opposition, right? Well, the Tories are doing that. The Green Party are wanting to go gender bending. It's like it's coming at us. There's this thing coming at us, right? And no matter what party you vote for, one of the parties has got this agenda thing, has got a grip on the parties, either through the gender bending part of it, and like binary, non-binary, all this, dehumanizing kind of like AI, let's all be kind of like analog sort of thing, and you can switch from click your fingers and be man or woman, or click your fingers and be African or Chinese, like over click your fingers, design your character, I was born into this planet, but I could be a teapot if I wanted to, right? Because then they got control over people. Once they can make you think that, they could have they could show you a TV program, and then everyone will want to be a woman one day. Then they could show you a TV program, and everyone want to be a male. Then they could show you a TV program and say, hey, we don't need humans anymore. Why don't you go jump off a cliff, right? This is the thing. Because then we got robots instead, and then you can accept these robots because you need them, right? But then robots turn on you. This is the thing. People aren't stupid. And look what they've done in China. They're going to nudge towards this China thing because it's, they're a bit bored. You're spoiled for choice, really, to what to do with technology, and that many people have got that many different ideas that I don't think that it can work, because if the population continues to grow and everyone likes different styles and tastes, right, then that's not going to work, right? It isn't going to work unless you preserve and protect specific things, because otherwise people won't have anything. You've got to be grounded in reality, right? You've got to be grounded. You can't be grounded in like a village, and then the next day it's a city, and then the day after it's a fucking, space station, and then the day after it's whatever, someone wants to click the fingers and make it into, because you're not grounded, and if you want to live in, the ideological world of, like, oh, I'm bored with my fingernails yellow, I want them red, and I'll, and you just like, click your fingers and everything changes. You might as well just live in the imagination and not in reality, and that's what some of them want to do. You need some kind of grounding, and you need to protect. There are things that people have got in life and that they enjoy and like as they are, but there's not profit or money in that for, big investors. So they need to try and either get those people to not be happy and content with what they've got, right? Or get rid of those people, right? Replace them with new ones who are constantly wanting to, make and change things, right? Out with the old and in with the new. And those people aren't going to vote, for just this kind of like senseless, pointless, mindless industrial overdrive just for the sake of it, just for the sake of getting Elon Musk to the moon, or Jeff Bezos to the moon, because no one else benefits from it unless you're a minion in an audience watching Katy Perry. Like you might as well be praying and watching the sunrise come up. Might as well be all on prostate on the floor. Like, oh, this is my god or whatever. You might as well be watching the sun come up than watch Katy Perry on a stage. It's pointless. So, yes, Starmer and Labour went in there with a plan. The plan was exactly what the plan is, which is, Khan, they've got all the plans. They've got all these agendas, city plans, you name it. They've got it. Digital ID. It's all lined up. We've all got the mobile phones now. They're already implementing it all. Everyone's identity is on their phone digitally, who and what they are and what they like already. They just want to officially say, oh, now this is official. We can, the government can use it to identify you whenever they want, and that seals the deal. Why pretend, that it's nudge, 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 nudge all the time, and they're managing to, there is some pushback against it. But it's a wrestling maneuver, right? And it's a big, it's a multi-pile-up grab now, and everyone can, there's enough people now who can see kind of where these other interests want it to go, and I don't think it can work, because with the rate of the population and the rate of the technology and the rate of these big companies need to do more and more and more. The bigger they get, the more they need to sustain themselves. It's gonna, the status quo is going to be unhappy. People aren't going to be very happy at all, and they don't really care about whether people are happy. They think that putting Katy Perry on a stage is going to make everyone, no, it's okay, it doesn't matter, we can go watch Katy Perry, this is great, right? Oh, my house just got demolished, and now, my cottage is, Cuba, now it's like, urban city central, but it's okay, because we're going to watch the Katy Perry gig, and then I can be on a game show and answer some questions, and everyone in England will clap, and I'll be the most popular person in England for 10 seconds because I answer the questions right on TV, and this is normal. This is perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal for 10 billion people in England to go, hey John, how you doing, John? It's John. John likes fishing and going out on a Wednesday. Are you having a good time, John? The 4,000 people don't need to know that John likes fishing on a Tuesday and baking eggs on a Wednesday. Isn't John happy with his own friends, doing that? So the sociopaths are pushing it as well. But no, this is normal. This is cool. This is this is the coolest radio show in England. If you're not listening to that, ring in. This is the thing. I've got something better to do. Like stop. The industrial military complex from writing the place off. So I can't see it getting any better, because everyone's starting to annoy the fuck out of each other now.